Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I think I'm going to skip this entire slide that I prepared because there's like a hurricane in my mind right now because I don't know if you guys planned it, but this entire conversation that I was listening to is basically the essence of who I am and what I do. I'm anchored in everything that you talked about. I'm familiar with Khat Foundation. I did a performance in New York, Abu Dhabi, New York University, Abu Dhabi with Al Malad. I did a performance outdoors. I lectured about the history of the Arabic language. I lectured about, I have like a TED talk about the migration of calligraphy with power and how the name Kufi changes, and I live like 100 kilometers south of Qayrawan, which is like used to be the capital of the Islamic Empire for a while. And, and all of this is just like beautiful. And I think I'm going to tell you the story of a street artist because we tend to talk about the street art scene and I would love you guys to just come here and then just like sit by my side and then look at things from my perspective and how it all started. Because what you see on the screen right now is some of the stuff that I used to look at as a child, 11 years old. And back in the days, we were living in like certain like very harsh conditions where we were confined at home because of my father's like political opinions. So he was imprisoned for a long period of time, and then during that time we were not allowed to leave the house. And then during these long days of summer, I used to look at the old books that my father had, and they were like books of like Quran, books of fiqh, books of hadith that were written in like old Maghribi style and old Kufi style. And to me, like visually, I got lost in all that beauty. I found myself, everything that I'm doing is writing and writing and writing. And I felt like at a young age, I existed through writing. It was just like everything ancient was inspiring to me. And I used to travel a lot to a lot of places. And, in Tunisia, we have a lot of like history, Phoenician history, history from Carthage. We have Roman history. We have Islamic, heritage. And then all of these things were very, very richly inspiring me in a way. And I was looking for my own language. I was listening to your talk, and it was so beautiful. And I was like, maybe what I'm doing right now is the continuity of what you just mentioned right there. I've seen with my own eyes some of that. I recently I was on a hike in a canyon, and then it was a few days after I lost my grandmother, and I was etching her name in the rocks. Like literally using like the old scripture, like the old Kufi, the Nabati style, I was etching it on the rocks. And I found myself on a mission, to be honest. I moved to Canada, and it was just living like in a cold place. People were cold and the weather was cold. And I was looking for something to identify with. And I think, my art practice was like what I tried to develop throughout the year by like looking at all those scriptures. I was trying to, create my own language. I was trying to create this like visual matrix that most of the time you see, I don't even sign my artworks. So I want it to be maybe like, I want people to look at, and it's not a problem if you don't recognize who the author or who's the artist. I want it to be just like something witnessing, all that process of like inspiration that I went through. And I developed this like thing that is present, in my artworks and in my studio practice. Something very subtle. You look at it and it looks like it speaks to you. It looks ancient. It looks like numbers, it looks like Roman letters, Roman numbers. It looks like a visual matrix in a way. And, you know, my next step was like, how can I take it to the streets, you know? And then, you know, we're talking about street art, and then street art is a language. Street art is a medium. Street art is very powerful. And this mural right here is very special to me because we were in, it's in Montreal, and then at that time, we were under attack, like a lot of like racism happening, you know, around Muslim community and whatever. So I was invited to paint this like in the main street, a street called Sainte-Catherine in Montreal, like a main, you know, artery in the city. And then I wrote a verse from Abu al-Qasim al-Shabi, and it says, عجبا لي أود أن أفهم الكون ونفسي لم تستطع أن تفهم نفسي. And Abu al-Qasim al-Shabi says, like, I would love to comprehend the universe, understand it in a way, but I'm just like struggling to understand myself, you know? And it was just like, it was a message to them because I, honestly, like after I finished the mural, I did like a public talk in the local theater. And then what I did, there was almost 200 people over there. After the lecture, I invited everyone to walk. We walked for like maybe like half a kilometer or something like that. And then I brought them to the mural. The mural is on the side of a mosque, and then I invited everyone to get into the mosque. And then a lot of them were like, oh, it's empty. You know, they were like, it's their first time, like they get, this is exactly what I'm trying to do, is like to build bridges between cultures, to build, you know, just, I want it to be like some sort of like a dialogue. This one right here is in Dubai. It's a Circle, right behind Circle, you can see it. You know, so a lot of, this one is in Sharjah, you know, and this one I did it after a residency, and you cannot distinguish if it's a mural or no, because actually it's not. It's all of these are canvases that I painted separately and then reassemble on the wall to just create this, you know, artwork. And then the title of the artwork is called "The Migration of Letters from Qayrawan to Sharjah." You know, and because I think Sharjah was the capital of the Islamic culture, and then the year before was Qayrawan, you know, so it was just like kind of like, I always love to create this, some sort of like a dialogue. This one is like in Halifax, Canada, and then I'm very selective when it comes to street art. I don't want to be all over the place. I want to do art that has a meaning, art that speaks to the local population. My work, I want it to be like based on a lot of research. So maybe in the street art scene, you don't find me all over the place in all these festivals. But I think the main thing that I kind of like proud of in a way is what happened in Tunisia and what we call the Arab Spring, right? So I lived this when I was in Canada, and I felt like disconnected in a way. Everything is happening around my hometown. Like 60 kilometers from my hometown is where everything started. So I went back, and this is like part of the longest mural in North Africa. So right after the Arab Spring was sparked and whatever, and when things got to settled a little bit, I was invited to paint on the local prison, you know, something. But that local prison was very like personal to me because that's where my father spent a lot of years behind. And I used to walk and I see the wall, and then my imagination was like, yes, my father is behind that wall. As a child, I remember that. So for me, I wanted to create an artwork that kind of like erases that wall, which is in the middle of the city. So I created the longest 240 meters, a full poem of Abu al-Qasim al-Shabi. There's actually an entire documentary on this. You can find online, it's on YouTube, where we worked for 45 days with a lot of young people that got involved in the project. And then in the center of the wall was the main message that I wanted. I wanted to my country, like after like all the uprisings and whatever, Abu al-Qasim al-Shabi says, ألا انهض في سبيل الحياة فمن نام لم تنتظره الحياة. You know, it was a message that to say, like an anthem to, hey, life will not await for those who are asleep. Because I found like an entire youth that were not even motivated to try. They don't have even the will to try. And then this is the essence of what I want to do. This is why like I feel like my art, you know, can serve a certain purpose. You know, I don't want to be labeled street artist. I don't want to be labeled anything. I live through my art. My art is like a voice that I have that I want to use. I want to enjoy this entire process. And then if there's an impact throughout the way, and or if there's a recognition, I mean, I don't mind. You know, so this is the beautiful project that I did in Russia, and then the lovely team of In Loco. That was like my first interaction with them. They invited me to Russia to paint this like massive mural, and it was just like to me very challenging because I was writing something with Arabic letters, but it wasn't Arabic. So super challenging for me to write something that I don't really understand, you know, but I was copying actually what I was writing, and it was like a beautiful project. Honestly, I'm really sorry, in 20 minutes I can't, it's like it's not enough time. We need the, and actually also, can we just stay here forever? And just like have conversations? You know, this is a beautiful story. Like I was in Australia and I was painting, and then I went to this coffee shop to have a coffee, and then the owner happened to be a Muslim Pakistani. And he's like, oh, brother, you paint, oh, you do calligraphy and this and that. I was like, yeah. I said, I'm painting a mural in the city. Like, he says, oh, I wish you'd do something here. You know, I was like, I don't have the time, you know. It was a Sunday. I finished painting my mural, and on the way back, I still have the brushes, I still have the paint, and I passed by his coffee shop and it was closed. And I decided to do it. I decided to do this, and he has no idea. And then when I went the next day, he was actually, the entire coffee shop were aware of the situation, you know, and it was just like a beautiful kind of like gift, you know, from me to him, you know. And there was the hadith لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه, you know. And my street art, sometimes it doesn't depend on scale. Sometimes I call these beautiful small pieces that I do, I call them like a proximity art. Like you just like, you get to have like a personal interaction with the piece without necessarily, sometimes like the big murals can be intimidating for a lot of people, you know, so I love doing this beautiful art. And the lady happened also to wear like the tote bag that I painted, so I wasn't staged at all. So yes, I can paint anywhere. This is like the mountain in my hometown, and you'll see the transition of how like we took some photos in this area right here on that bus, and then that same photo right here, as you can see, I'm standing on that bus. So I created this poem by Imam Shafi'i. And then he was talking about your real value is not necessarily in the place where you live, that you will get more recognition if you get to travel and then leave the place where you're comfortable with. And then basically this photo was printed, and then it's a mixed media piece. And then you can see like in a way that I use the medium of photography also. And you know, this is another piece in Australia, and this one is photography that I took in that tree I used to play. I used to climb when I was a child, and also like I printed the photo and I use it as a mixed media on a wall. So basically the middle part of the wall is the photo, and the rest is just like an addition. I painted that, you know, and you can see that the fire continues as letters, you know, and then this is kind of like the practice and the things that I love to do, because the element of light is very present in my work, and that's why I went towards the direction of developing a new sort of art. You know, I'm not saying that I invented anything, but I started something called light calligraphy. You know, unlike calligraphy is basically long exposure photography that in real time, I use a flashlight and then I created these pieces. And then I felt like, hey, I can paint anywhere I want without being persecuted. You know, it's just like, and all of a sudden it gives you like that sort of like freedom to do anything you want with the light. You know, so I travel around the world, and then this piece is like one of the closest pieces to my heart because it was a personal experience, like beyond. This one is in Jabal Uhud. You know, for Muslims, it's a very sacred mountain in Medina. And then I went with a local guide, and he told me there's a cave called the Cave of Musk, Ghar al-Misk. And then he says, that cave, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, this is where Sahaba pushed him to protect him during the Battle of Uhud. So he says, that place has a story. I was like, okay, can you take me there? So it's midnight, I'm in Medina, I'm climbing the mountain of Uhud, and the mountain of Uhud felt so familiar, very different from any other mountain. And then I find that the entrance of the cave was blocked, like with cement. I climb, and then I found a place that I was able to get inside. And then once inside, it was the most beautiful experience that I had my entire life. I was in a cave that stretches so deep, but at the same time, it's all dark. But at the same time, it has a smell that I've never smelled my entire life. Wallahi. It smelled like, I don't know how to describe it. And I was sitting there and I was just enjoying that solitude. And I was not afraid. I was sitting on a rock and I was overlooking the entire Medina. And then in my back is just like a cave that stretches so deep. And I was like so cozy, you know? So I exited the cave, and then I grabbed the flashlight. And this was taken with my phone. I have a phone also that allows me to do long exposure. And in one stroke, I didn't even turn off the light once. I just wrote the name Muhammad. And as you can see, it's like in a Maghribi. And then basically, I was just close my eyes, and then I wrote the letter Meme, and then I go to the Ha, and then I slide to the Meme, and then the Del, I go like this. I finish it to the end. In this place, I have to turn off the light in order for me to add this, but I just like went backward, and then I finished the letter Del. Why I wanted to be in one stroke? Because I didn't want to turn off the light. There was a light inside of me that was sparked after this, like interaction. And that's, what light calligraphy allows me to do. It allows me to travel around the world and then to create pieces that are like, this one is in Lebanon, and it was written like with fire. As you can see, just like light calligraphy that I'm able to do, all around the world. I'm sorry I have to go fast, because also besides all of that, I apply my work with light installations. I'll let you enjoy this. There you go. I want to share with you, this one is, there was last year, Sharjah Biennale. And this one I just achieved. I came from Riyadh actually, and I did this one. And as you can see, I'm using the old Kufi style in this piece that is just creates some sort of an infinity effect, and it's like an immersive experience where you just go and then you get surrounded by the shadows of the letters, and then you feel like you're into this loop of infinity, and yeah. This one is actually also on display at Northwestern University in Doha right now. And then that's it. I think we're done here.
Thank you so much for such engaging talk. Questions? Okay.
Thank you for your speech. Which city in Russia you did the mural in?
If I pronounce it right, Almatyevsk, right? Yes, it's in Tatarstan.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a beautiful experience. So basically, they gave me this poem that talks about basically the origins, you know, in a way. And then before they used to use like the Arabic letters, you know.
Is it Tatar language?
Yes.
Arabic letters?
Yes.
Okay.
So to me, it was very challenging because on one side of the building, it was curved. I was writing like in Russian. How you say it? Cyrillic? Cyrillic? Yes. Cyrillic. So I don't even know how to write or read, but I just like, you know, I'm open to try. So I was trying, and it was a beautiful experience. And then, you know, it was just like these golden letters that you can see from far, especially when the sun hits them. It was just like a beautiful experience. You know, overall, it was my first visit to Russia. We loved it. I loved it. It's just beautiful. Russia is like, it's anything you have in mind about Russia, Russia is better than that. Like truly, yes.
You're always welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure.
I was just showing my friend here a mural you did, I think, weeks before COVID happened and lockdown started in Al Quoz.
Yes.
So I was just showing her the photo, the selfie with you. You were
Habibi.
doing it. Beautiful now later. Big Habibi.
Wallah, it's a pleasure. Wallah, it's a pleasure. Like, I feel like, you know, this is how I define what I do. Like, truly, like 20 minutes was not enough. I think we'll have the chance, we'll have the chance to work with In Loco, to develop, to do a residency, and then I will have like a solo show with them in the month of January. So you guys are all welcome to kind of like to dive more deeper in like in my world in a way. But if I can say it in like few words, like truly, as a child, I felt like I existed through calligraphy. Because why? Because as I said, we were in a house, confined to the house. We're not allowed to go out unless we have a permission. But as a child, I was studying in a different city because I was in an elite school. So once the summer is done, I go back to that school where nobody knows my story. But all they know is like I'm the calligrapher. So I was like called the calligrapher, and I felt like calligraphy and the art of writing gave my existence a definition. And as an 11-year-old child, I mean, to me, it was my world. So when I went to Canada and I saw how I needed that connection with who I am, and I saw also like the community members, their children, they don't identify, they're like hiding their own true identity. So I started a program called Back to Basics. And Back to Basics is basically like I started with the youth in school and whatever, and then like, hey, come back, be proud of who you are. Let me tell you who you are. So I went on a mission since day one when I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. I wanted to give back to the Arabic calligraphy, what it gave me as a child. And that's it. I feel like I'm on a mission to showcase the beauty of Arabic language. And then maybe if the world stays for another 1,000 years, maybe like they'll find the remnants of our work somewhere.
Thank you. Sure.
Thank you.
Well, first, thank you very much for your talk. It's very engaging indeed, and very poetic and beautiful work. And I really enjoyed it. I can listen to you for another 2 hours happily.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. My question to you is more like you said you grew up with calligraphy, but I'm assuming you're self-taught. Or did you take courses of calligraphy? I have two questions, and let me just ask them in one, and then you can talk. And the second question is, when you work on certain pieces, I mean, I've noticed from looking at your work that every time it's different. It's a different style. So what makes you change? How do you decide what kind of script to use, the size, etc.?
Yeah. My main inspiration was those books that we still have. So books are almost like 400 years old, okay? And to me, what I was looking at, That's exactly what I wanted to replicate, which is the Maghribi script and then the Kufi script. These are the two scripts that I work with. These are the two fonts that I love to use and then that I want to focus on. Because there's a ton of calligraphers out there that can deliver, you know, the different fonts that you know, the Thuluth and the Kufi and Diwani and all of that, you know. But to me, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted, maybe in a way, I wanted like this like niche, which is very hard until I met this guy. His name is Amr bin Jiddu, and he's the guy who literally like put the foundations in a way, like the rules for the Kufi Qayrawani. And then he wrote a book, and he's a good friend of mine. He lives like in a city next to my city. And then I started taking like, study, you know. But basically I'm self-taught, yes. And but the common thing in my work you'll see is that like that visual effect that I developed. And then basically what you saw is like I create a visual matrix with the letter Alif and Lam. You see sometimes you read Alif, Lam, Alif. So basically it's the repetition of Alif and Lam, which is the two letters that we, Alif wa Lam Ta'rif. So these are the two letters that we use to define something. And I wanted to give a new definition to the Arabic calligraphy that is closer to the new generations. That if you grab somebody that's young and then you tell them, come here, I'm going to teach you the Kufi. Or come here, I'm going to teach you the Thuluth. You know, these kids nowadays don't have the patience or the perseverance. You know, so that's why I'm like, in a way, I'm trying to like bring them like a calligraphy from a different approach. I do a lot of like, you know, digital work, immersive experiences like video. So for example, like we developed in my studios a software that allow me to, any photo that I take, instead of it like sitting, you know, in my hard drives, I can inject it into this software and it transform it instantly into a video installation. So, and we call it the dark side of the letter. So like all of this is in a way like, you know, me trying to just like scratch the curiosity of people. Hey, Arabic calligraphy is beautiful. Maybe you should give it a chance. If not, learning about it, but it will tell you a lot, because the calligraphy, which is the art of writing, you know, it's one of the main mediums that allowed the transfer of knowledge from our ancestors to the modern time. You know how this is how they transmitted all the knowledge that they accumulated to us. And then, you know, if we abandon the art of writing, we're in big trouble. A lot of our kids nowadays, they don't write anymore. They type. You know, we're losing it slowly, but that's why like I'm doing to kind of like create a balance, to create this like balance between, you know, modern technology and then this ancient and beautiful art. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Go.